A gracious good morning, Jade Universe. This is your first recap. This is Professor Tommy Halstead or Coach D. This is your first recap of our first decision prior to decision two. You've been inherited a turnaround, and we'll show you some graphics from the turnaround, what happened to decision one. The main purpose of these recaps is for you to take screenshots of the various slides of lost orders, inventory, financials, results, and all that good stuff. I'm going to quell my video so we can have enough bandwidth to get into all these websites. And I'm going to share my screen so that we can take you through the steps. I'll step through, give some analysis, step through kind of quickly because decision two is all about seeing your customers, competitors, and then starting to make decisions on the basis of ready, aim, fire instead of ready, fire, aim because we didn't have a lot of data. All three teams are neck and neck, red, blue, and yellow, but there's some differences in strategies, the strategy course, and we'll see some of the differences in strategy as we look at model simulation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all that good stuff that's coming around the bend for simulating businesses and learning how to run the day-to-day financials and strategy to be successful and sustainable. So let's get the recording started here. Ready, fire, aim versus ready, aim, fire is what happens between these decisions as we go forward. And the whole point of your final presentation, we'll show you an example of what one looks like as this is several weeks from now, but these main decisions aren't now. The course is heavily point graded towards the end with the final presentation, and we'll see how the sim builds to that more than anything else. So we have not a lot of strategy to start with. We're just trying things, testing them out, and seeing what happens. But then we'll see much more clearly all the indicators and metrics that have come, and you can take screenshots of all these as they come up so that we get much more strategic and our decisions become much more informed as we look at what has happened in the financials and in the graphs that we will show. You can also redo those graphs in your posts during the course and for your final presentation and other papers, etc., that are coming due, which will much lower your workload. We'll also have a website that I'll post on Halo. Can't show it here, but on Halo we'll have a link to the website. We also put these graphics just like we do at biz485.com and also show some more general tips here in just a second. So here we can see our better worse. These are our results that happened from our decision that we inherited compared to the decision that we made in this last round. And this, of course, this follows our usual order of low cost family, eco, and then image. Family and image are also always where we should invest. That's where the action happens. And we have to be very careful that we don't get stung by low cost and eco early. You can see yellow team did better on image. They invested, they made a revenue play, but they also did so and got kind of killed as we see. These all start with red, goes red, blue, yellow. So this is our low cost and family. And red, of course, you can see we were underwater here and red did much better on both of the critical lines. However, the only line family should be much better by this time, although you didn't have a lot of data, so you're just kind of trying and seeing what happens. As of starting with decision two, three, four, and five, you'll have a lot more data and see what you need, especially the idea of lost orders over inventory, which is the key metric that drives these EBIT numbers. We can look at, there's also an analysis I put through MATLAB to get all the ratios for you. You can take a screenshot of this if you want. I will also be posting this on Halo, but it is a general recap. I won't read it to you or go through it in detail, but it'll show everything that happened between last time and this time from a 30,000 foot view. This is basically the short answer is red team uh, minimize their losses and maintain quality metrics. And this is down here in the most stable financial performance of the three groups. And it just says who did better, who did worse. But in general, as usually happens, because we don't have a lot of data and a lot of experience with the sim or running a company this size, that we're not expected to all of a sudden take over the world. And let me show you an example of another red team that will be very, very instructive if I can find it here. Okay, there some of the things I'll be showing will be there'll be 7, 8 teams. Sometimes there's three. In the smallest case, there are only 3 teams with 2 partners in each. So we have a whole vast variety of different team sizes. This is a team, a final presentation by a red team that look at these differences. Blue blew everybody out in the first decision. Can you imagine a first decision that's not inherited, but this is what happened after the one you just looked at in our universe? Um, Blue just absolutely took over here. And red, although they did really well in family, they absolutely crashed and burned and everything else. And this is a log scale, so this is even lower for red. So they looked from the first decision on, this is the first decision. And this is, by the way, their final presentation. This is how it looks like. It's not complicated, but it uses the graphics. By the end, they won the sim, hands down, by positive rows. The best financials did fantastic. So they figured it out. They figured the white market line, lost orders over inventory, and they'll show you what happened in each line because each of the see in each one of these lines that we'll have a slide from the CEO of that line, the person you each one of you take a car line or two, and then you'll contribute this to the final presentation, go back and forth and talk about what happens. So there's only a few slides here, and this a lot of your grade depends on this and the posts and the things. So what happened is they show period 7, so it goes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for the 5. This is the final uh, financials and strategy and results of low cost. And the key thing to do, and you'll see all the teams talking about lost orders over inventory because the goal is to make it close to zero as possible. If you're above the zero line, this is zero here, it means you're building inventory. If you're below it, then you have lost orders. Lost orders means you're not making as much as you're selling. You get great revenue, great sales, but you can't deliver them because you have problems with production. So right down here means your supply equals demand, you're at equilibrium, and you're just rocking in terms of you saw how they ended the sim. So the thing to do is be honest. Say, here's where we changed our strategy, here's what went right, here's what went wrong, show some graphs, especially lost orders. So you really see you understand the metrics that are driving modern businesses in terms of big data, AI, ML, all those analysis we can run. Now, each one of these, they show a snap of LOI, but also give the strategy overview, how it worked, when it didn't, eco-friendly. Now, don't get all freaked out and say, oh my goodness, how all this stuff, where are we getting all this information? This is after 5 decisions. This is the end of the course. Sometimes if you work back from the maze, you can see where you need to go. So they took each one of these, showed what happened. Image is fantastic. They just did a great job of managing supply and demand. Putting the engineering sliders, look at what it did to CapEx, and then how many do you need to build for that? Then there are a lot of different formulas for that on biz485.com, and also be showing you one here on the strategy. So that's basically the 4 car lines and kind of the final presentation, what best practices look like in a final presentation. View of our industry results. And you can take shots of these, and where these are highlighted, they're saying something's better, worse, something's going on here. Obviously, yellow did very well in revenues across the board. And everybody, when you look at the standings, you'll see that every one of these are equally distributed. It's just that why red blew it away is they were much better on the financial side. Each one of these are something you can analyze, look at what the team did compared to what you did. You can get a snapshot of these. We'll also throw them on the website. But your decision, you're probably watching this. This is done over the holiday, and we're not supposed to be communicated then, so that you'll be watching this Monday or Tuesday. So it'll give you a snapshot to get going right away on your next decision, decision 2, so you know where to look at. But this is, we have now, this is our low cost line and the financials there. And I'm doing analysis for you of all these, but you need to do your own as teams also. Um, you can see clearly here what's driving EBIT and lost orders over inventory here, where you see what's happening with inventory, and I'll show you that in a graphic way. And then here we have eco, where we know it's very, very difficult. Um, Marketing appeal should be right around 100%. If you're way overspending in marketing on something that doesn't get mature, you're going to get killed. And blue and yellow got kind of killed there. So it's not that you just don't make any changes, it's that you don't make too many big changes. And then our two flagships are really image, and you can see where there's some issues in terms of blue with revenue here. And also you'll see lost orders over inventory where inventory has been building because they had plenty of production, but not enough sales. On the other side, we'll look at the other side, but let's look at our rankings, which I already posted on Halo earlier, but let's expand these. And the most important thing is right here, where if you if you're number one in all six indicators, you'll get a six. So the lower the better. That means you're one, 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 one on everything. Well, ones, twos, and threes got really shared to the extent that we've got like the best you can do is six, and the worst you could do is be number three, which would be like 18. So we have no 18s. We've got 11, 12, 13. So we are so neck and neck that, but it's three completely different strategies in terms of car lines. I've never seen one that is so diverse and yet so close. You did so well in the areas that you chose to focus on. That's amazing. Given this is just a first decision where you never saw your competitors, you really don't understand the customers other than the cheat sheet, etc. So the results are really absolutely amazing. So let's go over and take a closer look at lost orders over inventory and also our decisions. And we'll go through each of the teams and kind of look at how those white lines work. But most importantly, let's do lost orders over inventory. These are the slides you're going to come to know and love because they'll show you very clearly what's happening with your supply and demand. How are you making those sliders go with marketing and with engineering in order to drive revenue on the top line and then sell those orders, reduce that inventory with orders from the sales. And if this is our zero line right here, and blue team in low cost, and you can look at the EBIT, how it reflects in this, how each one did. Blue team did great, and red did not do bad either. Yellow had a ton of lost orders because you saw their strategy was very risky. And you'll see that in the recap, take a lot of chances and revenue, which they would have been absolutely blown the sim away. They built a flywheel. They got tremendous revenue, but they didn't make enough cars in low cost to get those. So they had all that money they spent, and it's a real cash crunch for everyone you get like this because you spent a whole bunch on marketing and you didn't get the revenue for it. They got good revenue, but they could have gotten a lot more profitable revenue. If you're losing money with each sale, a lot of revenue doesn't help you. You just burn through cash. So that's why this has to be balanced off. This, of course, is low cost. And you can take a screenshot of these. These are going to be very important to add them up and see what happens to the end. This is family, and it's dead, dead on, laid on to each other with red and blue are identical. They didn't change the sliders a lot, basically. Yellow again made a big family should be a lot of money and a lot of profit as should image. And it was for yellow. But look at the difference here where the same thing is a production problem with yellow. You got to figure out how do we forecast what we need and then how do we build enough. Eco is always a disaster for everyone. Blue team, actually, where's our zero line? Blue team, yes, blue team did really quite well. They actually had inventory built up in what we inherited. Remember, decision one is after decision by other people who own the company. So is it better or worse? It's better here for blue because they got closer to the zero line's going to be further. It's down here. It's like right across here. So no one did uh, terrible on eco in terms of those. Yellow still had the same problem of investing a lot but not making enough. So we definitely got to look at our orders with yellow, and I'll talk to each team member and we'll do a lot of texting as we get towards decision two this week. You can see again, red is building some inventory here. They did really good, but on eco, they they didn't market it enough, but that's okay because they did very well financially. They didn't invest too much in it and burn their cash. Image is our flagship. People just make a huge amount on image. This is zero. And remember how well yellow did, as well as red, in maintaining their momentum in image from better to worse before. And they're in what we inherited. Uh, Everyone, of course, was even. Everybody saw us even in what we inherited because it would be fair. So everybody was kind of a little bit profitable in image, and and the before and after, you'll see why did red do so well? Why did red do so well and yellow also do well in image, but not enough to really push the kind of level? It's all three, of course, were still positive, but why did red do a lot better? Well, look at how close they are. They took a chance on it, built a lot, and yellow also did really well. So blue's problem in image, which should have been an absolute wonderful thing, they actually went down a little bit, not a lot. They're still positive, but they went down because they built a lot of inventory, meaning that they made enough cars, but they didn't market enough for image. There's too much marketing in the other areas. And this is your portfolio strategy where you get together right before the decision and you say, hey, I'm the image person. I really want to spend a lot of money on that. Alexa want to spend money in this area. And then the team has to get together and say, no, we really can't overspend in eco or in low cost. Those are growers in decision 3 and 4. But we really have to do well in our family and image lines in our portfolio right now. But it evolves. Portfolios evolve as we go along. As we talked about before, the best way to do the sim as you look through your metrics is to sort of, pan and zoom across. These are examples of how we can look at differences between decision one and decision two on past teams. Some of these have 8 and 9 teams, so you're going to see a lot of bars here, but lost orders over inventory are always extremely important in terms of predicting what happens. And these are just examples to kind of show you what happens with lost orders over inventory and other indicators and what the strategy is and how it's calculated in terms of what is LOI and how do you plot it. And you can take screenshots of these as you want, but some of these are also tips that our course lead, Professor Waterman, and I come up with to look at what we should we do strategically. And you can put these points into your your presentation as you go along to show, exactly what is. Oops, there we go. There's a bigger view of it. Take a screenshot and look at that later. It's not as crucial. Many of these will be customized for your own decisions. Decision one versus decision two, as you'll see, decision one versus decision two. And then also we have, there's 5 teams, which are some as much as 6 and 7 teams, and how they ended up. And this just is an example. I show this to show you that typically teams switch places a lot. This again is what happens with lost orders over inventory. You're getting a bunch of orders, but sales in the U.S. are deliveries. You're not delivering because you're not making enough cars, and this is basically wasted, lost money. And then, as we did before, we also can look at what happens after the fifth decision. What is the feedback that happens in terms of how all the teams work together and what made it click for the winners and what did the people that didn't come in, the teams that came in less of these, I think there's 7 teams, there might be 6 here. We got it all red, yellow, and blue running here. But this was a photo finish because everyone came down to the end of it. But again, these are things that you can do to present. For instance, here's your retained earnings and um, rows, and these are the difference of the rows between how the teams competed here in a long series of decisions with a lot of teams. Go back there, get back down. And then again, our final lost orders over inventory. This is just to give you a snapshot so you see the end and the beginning for these decisions. A lot of teams competing and how close do they other come to the zero line and in each one of these lines. And you can still see some building inventory, but it tightens up as we go forward in the various periods, as you can see. So many of these are literally uh, the materials you need to get all your keep your straight A's going in all the papers, etc. It's like why be honest about what decision did you make, what worked and what didn't work. That's learning. That's what we're expected to see. Uh, this is a good slide to take a picture of because it's what do we do to get those top results and what are the reasons for our decisions and where do we pull our metrics from? So we've got the reasons for our decisions, business writings. This is again language to your board. It's not API citations and scholarship. Scholarship is great, but this is you're running a business and you're presenting to your board and to your venture capitals, perhaps if you're a young, small company. And then what happens with competition and customers? And all these are your final presentations, your final papers, and everything that happens after a few decisions. And also remember, this can all go into your posts during the week, all the things that are going on. So it makes the course a lot easier because you're working together on it, and it'll give you a chance to see what was actually happening with your customers and your competitors as you see each other's posts and comment on that. So it cuts down on the amount of reading and work and the other things that you have to do because you're working in the sim and you're reporting on it. Okay, now very briefly, we're going to look through the decisions, especially as they relate to each team. We saw lost orders over inventory. Now let's look at the white lines and the sliders for each team. So this is low cost, and this is the beginning. This is what red did. And we're going to see our white line more and more and more like this in terms of what these now, of course, all these aren't decisions. These are the parameters of what everyone chose for try to match what the customers want. And this is not a time series. You can make it by taking a snapshot of each one of these, but these are the parameters that you chose to make each of those lines. Some you didn't change a lot, some you left the same, others because you didn't know what to do. But in marketing, on the low cost, this should be low cost, right? Yeah, low cost. This is our value proposition. And this is the same as what you look at with your budget and value change when you make your decisions. But now you're going to see that you'll have a white line that's the market line. And when you're above it, you're spending too much. This is expected. And when you're right on it, you said red did quite well. And you'll see each one of these how we do. And I'm going through these quickly so you can just take screenshots of them, get a feel, but you can animate them through the next decisions of how is that white line moving. And if we're below it, we're underspending. If we're above it, we're overspending. And that gives us a good way, if you're crashing and burning, at least to know what to do with the sliders. But then we have to, of course, build the right amount of vehicles that we need. This is family. That was low cost. This is family, one of our flagships where we should be doing real well. And you can see some underspending in family, although, red team did real well in the financials. So these aren't too far apart. There's not a lot of overspending in something that didn't realize orders. But again, these are driving sales because you're matching customer needs and going against competition with your pricing. But the other side of it is supply. And that's the lost orders over inventory where you have to really get those answers right and how many cars to build with those formulas. They're on viz485.com. There's much more of a problem in eco here because you can see where the customers wanted much more than they thought they did in technology for eco and was underspending there. But consumption's always a big deal with eco because it's very expensive. The more you spend on consumption, the better your gas mileage. It's kind of counterintuitive. But if you want to play here, you can see there's a lot of no change stuff where it's like not let's not overdo this in terms of some of these. But we do know the consumption is important, and then marketing is the same thing. But marketing is not very predictive at this stage because we don't have enough decisions yet. Okay, here's image, which was really interesting because a really good job of red did in following this, and yellow did also in terms of following what's needed here. There is some overspending in consumption because don't forget, image doesn't care about gas mileage. They are not big on, and so there's wasted opportunity here because don't expend a lot when someone's buying a Ferrari and they couldn't care less about gas mileage. Now that sounds, they don't love God's green earth and whatever, but that's the nature of image. It's like a gas guzzler race car. that kind of stuff, which is extremely expensive in a gas guzzler. And image the market, if you watch your gas prices on your landing page and it starts to go up, you're going to have some problems with image. So let's jump quickly through the other two teams. We have to watch these gas prices. Buck 96 is nothing. If that was $3, we'd have some real problems with image. And you don't fix that by fixing consumption. They don't care about the economy, but there'll be less bought. It will be less in the market bought. Same thing with emissions. If you sell thousands and thousands of eco cars, you're going to have more emissions than image because you just have so many of them out on the road. This is very subtle. So let's jump over to our decisions for blue and look quickly at the lines so this doesn't take too long. But this will really help you as you make your decisions to see what's happening now. There's performance is interesting. Is this low cost? Yeah, this is low cost because it's like, well, let's not spend anything on performance because low cost only cares about money. Well, they care a little about performance, so there's a little bit of a problem there. This is not bad, however. This is really good for a first decision. Marketing is probably, nothing yet, but we will see as these factors go forward that you get closer and closer to the white line. By the end, most of all the teams are just absolutely expert at seeing what the customers want, but you still have the question of your competitors and what are they doing. So you can see an issue here with what are these models? Yeah, this is our number of models. Number of models very complex. They're you'll see as you go along and in the cheat sheets and if you watch the strategy videos, you can do all that stuff to get this where you can learn from experience with a lot of ready, fire, aim. If you want ready, aim, fire right away, build a flywheel, do really well, you got to watch the other videos, look at the cheat sheets and find out what the customers really want by each line. And everyone doesn't have time to do that, but as a team, maybe if each one of you does a little, you can report to the others. This is a really good match in eco by blue. They overspent a tiny bit. Was that tech? Yeah, they spent a little bit more and tiny bit more than they wanted there, but otherwise they're very good following of this line. So you combine the white lines, the market line, what the customers want, and then you look at what your competitors are doing. And then the third thing you look at is lost orders over inventory. How are you matching supply and demand? And wow, we've got a big problem here. What is this image? Yeah, this is our absolute charter line. It's not easy to follow because image has much different wants. They want consumption, but they don't. This looks like the sliders were maxed out here. Let me see. Yes, yes, yes. See, we never, never, ever. This is in like dozens of videos. We never max something out at like 8, 9, or 10 ever. You make small changes. It was at 5, you go to 6, or you go to 7. But if you max the slider, you're going to just destroy your cash because the slider's tied to your capex. And your capital expense is what drives supply and production. So if that's really high, you're going to kill a loss order or inventory as well as not meet the customer's need because they need more spending in areas like this is a lot of overspending dead on in terms of what robustness and size, but then way up high, not way high, but high on technology. They do want technology. Well, you can see by these bumps also, what do they want? They want novelty, right? Where's novelty? They want novelty. They want novelty. They want an image. They want should be a comfort one here. Let me see, comfort. Yes, they want comfort, but not that much. And so you can see where the little bumps are and what do they want less of. They probably want less of robustness. But what happens also if you spend a lot, as you'll see with yellow, we'll go to yellow now, but if you spend a lot on high tech, you're going to have a lot of problems in terms of returning back to the team, the problems with quality. So in general, pretty good match, but way overspending on all of them for something that's not a big grower yet. And this is again not a big deal for marketing, although they did overspend on marketing too. So if you're going to make a play for low cost like this, we can see they did great in revenue, and Yellow had a very specific strategy, which you'll see in that recap of that I was reading to you, and also that we showed earlier. But the just have to have a little bit less in order to meet the market demands in something that's not growing yet. Family is a flagship. So when you look at family, it's like in every one of these cases, Yellow made a play to be a flywheel, but you can't be everything to everyone in all the lines. So it showed in the revenue they did really well, but if they would have made the number they need to make, they would have made a lot more profit and they would have had a flywheel and would have just taken it away. And they still can. This is very early. Oh, this is actually pretty amazing. It was still a little overspent, but that's a really good match. You can just see that where's it high? What do they want? This should be tech. Is this tech for eco? Yeah, this is tech for eco, which is a pretty good match. Well, yeah, tech is where you go up, and then where do you go down? You go down um, with consumption. Everybody says they really want gas mileage. What they do really want gas mileage, but um, it's I'm not going to play with the sliders. This is live. I would play with some of the other sliders, but you see what happens. So you can move that back towards your white line, and this is kind of a way to make sure that nobody just gets destroyed in the sim. Is the white line gives you some feedback of where did you go right, where did you go wrong. And it's part of the cheat sheet only as you go along. It's better to look at the cheat sheet, read the strategy guide, and figure out what people want, and then try to hit the line. If you see a trend line and you are ahead of it, you're an innovator, but you're stuck in air through your carburetor because you're ahead of where the desire is. If you're below the trend, you're always getting in an exhaust. So you've got to meet the trend. If you really meet what's going on, and each one of these, as these are dimensional, come out for every decision and they change. These white lines, of course, change because of what what they want is what's on the market. So when you invest in something, everybody's revenues goes up. That's why this is co-opetition, not just competition, because if you all invest in a line, the demand's going to go up for everyone, the whole market. And if you have high inventory and you crash your prices and you price everything really low, you destroy the whole industry. You won't get a lot of profit, but nobody will because the price will be so down so low. So that's kind of our recap. I don't want these to go too long, but this is for you to be able to take screenshots. Let me stop our share here. So you can take our screenshots and look at the metrics. I'll be posting this all the rest of the week in Halo and on the website 45. You also have your own website, Jade Universe, which I'll be posting also on Halo. But this is a good, fast start to what actually happened that you can look at right away. First thing Monday morning, I'll have the links posted in Halo. Thank you very much again. It's great working with you. I hope you had a great holiday, and we will see you in the next sim and in class. Don't forget to text each other and me if you have any questions.